Hello, and thank you for joining us today to learn a little bit more about Microsoft Lists and all that you can do with templates. This is a look at the broad world of templates that you have at your fingertips to use or create when using Microsoft Lists. I'm joined with Chris Kent, who's going to be helping me with some of the custom template creation, and we're going to walk through everything there is to know about templates, template use, template creation, template configuration, all the things that you can do to help you more programmatically approach how you build your lists and, of course, save a lot of time. So we're going to cover the basics through what you can do with templates by looking at a blank list and growing it from there just to articulate all the pieces and components that you have access to leverage within templates or to build into your own custom templates. We're going to run through the templates that come within the service that are built in and ready-made for you to use from Microsoft. We're going to show you how you can use an existing list to create a new list. It's like an ad hoc template once you've defined what you like in your list, and then to be able to create one from it is very powerful. We're going to focus then on some of the newer capabilities of being able to build out custom templates. Chris is going to show you a lot of what I maybe will hint at and show in the components when we look at a blank list, but then how you can build that into your own custom templates. A lot of options there. Then we're going to talk a little bit about something that's a little bit in the horizon. We've put on the roadmap what we call Microsoft 365 connected templates. I want to walk through what those are and what you can expect to have available to you soon down on the roadmap. And then I also want to look at what we have currently as some new templates in the Microsoft Lists MSA Preview, what we have for consumers and small business that's now in preview. And I want to show you what some of the new templates look like and how the team is building them. Then at the very end, I'll have some resources that Chris and I can point you at so that you can go learn more, try it yourself, and get more accustomed to this broad world of templates in Microsoft Lists. So to start to understand what you can do with lists, I want to start with a blank list. So I'm here in Microsoft Lists within Microsoft 365 and all the other applications that I have the ability to jump to. I'm here on the Lists app in Microsoft 365. And just for the sake of demo, so you can see a little bit more, I'm going to put this into full screen mode just within the browser by hitting F11 so you can see the full canvas of the Lists app in Microsoft 365. So we're going to first go in and create a blank list. So this is our new blank list. I can choose to describe it, add a color, all those things. We've got some new icons that are coming through if you want to choose an icon. And for this purpose, I'm just going to save this to my list. This is my personal space to create a list. So when I click create, this will create a blank list. And everything I'm about to show you are the parts and pieces that you can build into your own custom templates or ones that we build into our ready-made templates. It really is just to show you all the things that you have available to you that comes with a template or that you can control when creating your own. So the first thing I want to highlight is, of course, with any list, you can always add a column. You can remove columns, you can configure the columns, and I'm just going to add a couple to start building this out. So we'll build a yes/no column, and we'll just call it yes and no. And we'll keep it pretty simple, default as yes. I'm going to add another column, which is a choice field, and I'm going to leave these choices just as they are for timing, but I'll just put in choices as the name of the column. And you can see here we kind of pre-add 3. You can, of course, adjust the name, adjust the colors, add more choices, and even create some more ways that you customize it, whether you want to add multiple selections. Let's add that and click Save. Again, we're just adding a couple of columns so that you can see the things that you can do. We'll add one single line of text. We'll call this one company. And we'll add one more that has a little bit more to do with numbers. And we'll call this cost. And you can choose, obviously, the different ways that you articulate the numbers. I'm going to have in front of it by default a US dollar sign, but you can choose different number symbols. You can have different ways that you can articulate how many numbers that appear. And again, I'm mostly walking through this so that you can see that once I identify what I want, if I want, I can then focus on this being a new template that I leverage, but it really is to look through all the different things. So I can choose any number of columns, multiple types of columns, all the same type of column, a mix and match, doesn't really matter. But once I get it looking the way that I want it to look, I can then go in and add one new item just so we can see what it starts to look like. So this title is going to be example item number 1. We'll say that yes, this is an item. This is choice number 2 and choice number 3. And then we're going to put in the company as Microsoft. And the cost on this particular item is going to be $200. So when we click Save, you'll see I've added a new item. The choice colors are coming through. The way that I built out what yes and no looks like comes through. And I can even go and do some additional things like formatting. I can format this column. I can do common styles for yes and no, green and red. That looks great. And I can go in and if I want to add a little color formatting here to the cost field, and I can go in and maybe put data bars and do the range of 0 to 400. And when I click Save, you'll see that this is now half of that data bar. So all of this information, all the formatting, all the columns are what I can articulate in a template or what I get for free when I use the ready-made templates. The last things that I want to show you is if I go in and automate some of this and build out a rule so that if a common value changes when somebody chooses a yes, no, and if the condition is, let's say, no, then I'm going to email myself. And now I've created a rule. That rule lives with this list in the list schema, and it is on. And I also want to go in and create an additional view. So I'm going to go create a new view. I'm going to choose this one to be gallery, and we'll just call it that. So it's a little bit easier to recognize. And when I go to click create, you'll see that we now have the start of gallery view. And I can go in and even further refine how this card looks. Obviously, their image, if I want to include the image or not. But now that I've created that, you can see that I've got 2 views, all items, gallery view, and I have effectively customized this list from blank and added in columns, added in color formatting, added in a rule. I can go in and manage those rules, and I've added a different view. All of this can now be added as a template. But it really is to give you a quick look at all the parts and pieces that you can control and manage. And when you see the demo that Chris has for creating custom templates, not only does he show you how to create and deploy the template, but he really walks through a lot of areas in more detail that really articulate all the things that come with a template. So that's the quick broad overview of what templates can contain, and I thought starting from blank would give you a good window into that. Now back to what is it if you want to create a new list from a ready-made template, one that has been built by Microsoft and is available to you when you go click New List. So I want to show you there are some things that have been updated in this new Create experience. If you haven't seen this or it's not yet reached your tenant, we now have a lot more information about the individual templates so that you can get a better sense of what they are and what they have as their primary scenario. So we created a blank list. Now if you look under templates, the ones that are from Microsoft are the ones that are listed here. You'll see 8, and this number might vary because some of these are relatively new that we're making available either internally here at Microsoft or we're releasing through the new Microsoft Lists MSA Preview, which I'll cover at the end. But as you look into one of these, I'm just going to show you, this gives you a peek ahead, the same as we just walked through a blank list. This is going to start more than blank. So it's a template that has predefined columns. So here is the issue name column, the description of the issue, the priority, and some pre-configured choices within the priority column, the status column, and its pre-configured choices. All the way through right to left, you'll see that there are a number of columns that will be pre-populated, and we give you a look ahead, not only at the name, a summary, and some of the features that this template then brings. So again, a little bit of a updated user interface when you go to create a list from a template, and if you use it, it'll apply all of this. Let me walk through a couple of the other ready-made templates that we make available. That was the issue tracker. If you go into managing an internal event, or you're planning for an external event, whatever it might be, this event itinerary walks you through what you would expect to track around each session. The type of session, the name of the session, speaker, description. Once you start to layer in a start date and time, it'll then give you the duration and the capacity. If you're in person and you've got room capacity, you can track and manage the registrations based on that information. So we try to take a common scenario like getting ready and planning for an event and build in how you would leverage lists to help you manage the sessions of that event. And you can have multiple different types of sessions. This particular session type column comes pre-configured with a lot of different choices. And I'll show you that in a second. This is going to be the one that I create. And again, you get a summary and some of the features that come with this template. The last one I want to show you, and I'll show you for a particular reason, because when I talk about the connected templates that we're bringing soon to market, leverages this particular template, the work progress tracker, within the scenario of managing projects across a team with content and people and information all intact. That'll make a little bit more sense when I cover connected templates. But this work progress tracker is a very popular one in the service. A lot of people use this to track work items, their description, what category they fall in. Of course, all of these are customizable, color, name, icon. These are just samples that get pre-configured for you so that it can save you time, but it can also articulate what it is that you can do. And you can see over here all of the things that this template has built into it. So let's use one just so you can see what using a ready-made template out of the service looks like. If we go into the event itinerary, we've already looked at this. We're happy with it to use it as a template for our next event, and we'll just call it next event. And I'm going to choose a different color, purple, and for this one it's going to be all about artificial intelligence, this next event. And again, I'm just going to put it into my list here for ease of creation. If I wanted to, I could use this template in any of the realms that I have to create a list. If I'm a member or an owner of a team, the connected team site where the list will get created, if I have access to be that creator, it'll show here in my recent list, and I could choose a number of places. But for now, I'm just going to leave it in my personal space within Microsoft 365, what we call My Lists, and click Create. And same as when I created blank, it's going to start us off relatively simple with no items, but now you can see all the different columns that we had that were highlighted for us are now available to us when we go in click create. So we'll call this next session number 1, and we'll give this a code of 007, one of my favorite characters. And you can see these are pre-populated choices within the choice field of session type. This will be a workshop. Give it a description. I'll just make myself the presenter here so you can see what the person looks like. We'll give this a start date of next week, and we'll make it PM so it's not too early in the morning, and we will end this one at 1 p.m. And you'll start to see that calculate out. This is going to have 100 people because we're going to do this in person here on Microsoft campus in Redmond. And if I wanted to leave any notes. These are all pre-populated forms for each item. And when I save it down, you'll see some of the choices that are already made for me in terms of the color of the workshop pill, what I look like when I'm added as a speaker. And if I hover over that, obviously it taps into the people card. And this is by default available to me. And as I add more items and different session types and whatnot, start to build this out, you can see that there's a lot that's built into this template so that it can help me manage an event, a common scenario, and all the common fields. If I wanted to go and further refine this, remove some of these things, maybe I wanted to add something like a hyperlink, I could do that. This might be the session link. And if I save that down, that'll just be another thing that I can go in and add. When I open up this session, you'll see now that I've got that new session link, and I'll just type in bing.com. And we'll just do that very quickly so you can see what it looks like. And then when I save it down, you'll see here. Now it's a nice hyperlink. I've added one column to the existing template and I'm ready to go. So using the out-of-box ready-made templates is very easy. Click New List. You'll see them all here. The scenario is articulated in the short box. As you click into one, like the recruitment tracker, you get a lot more sense of what that template brings. You then just jump into using it. So if I step back, the next thing I want to show you is creating a list from an existing list. And this is as if you built out an ad hoc template on your own based on either the use of one of the templates I just walked through, or if you had started blank and built out the beautiful list that you really enjoy using because it already uses all the columns, the formatting, the rules, all the views that you create. And maybe this is a type of list that you create over and over again when you have multiple projects or multiple events. So the one scenario that I wanted to show you is just that. I have multiple events that I often manage, and I work with a number of different team members. And originally, when I did this for the first time, I used this particular list to build out um, the different ways that I manage events. So I have an ongoing Microsoft Teams team called Next Gen Events. And I have often many lists that I've created. You can see some of them for demo purposes, but some of them are for the real events that I've been managing, along with a lot of my colleagues here. And one of the recent ones that I have leveraged was this 365 EduCon in Seattle. So this is a really recent use of a list, but I've leveraged this template of this existing list and previous lists before it many, many times. So I'm going to show you what it looks like to use it, and then I'll show you what the list actually brings. So let's say we're getting ready for the Chicago show later this year for EduCon, and we're going to use it for in teal, and for this one we hope that we can find a good cup of coffee. Again, I can use this in as a my list, but since I know I'm going to be doing this one in the Next Gen Events site, leveraging this same template, I'll go ahead and do that. So now I'm going to click Create, and by default, similar to how I've used a template, this is going to bring in the smarts and the formatting of an existing template and layer it in. So keep this in mind. I'm going to star it. We'll come back to it. But just to show you that previous list that we built it from, I want to jump into that EduCon Seattle list so that you can see what it looks like. So here is the list that we used previously. These are all now in the past. But you can see we tracked title, speaker, owner, session type. There was a code that gets assigned from the event team, abstract, and some of the things that I added and made a little bit unique was so that the room was really easy to see. I bolded it and made it a little bit bigger. I made the allocation since I work with the Teams team, the Power Platform team. I represent OneDrive and SharePoint. And of course, any session that we get listed, I had color coded. OneDrive and SharePoint became kind of a green teal. If it was a Microsoft Viva session, it became blue all the way across. If it was a Teams session, it was purple. And if you noticed with Power Platform, those would turn gray. And anything that got listed as a keynote session would turn yellow. And so at a quick glance, I can scroll through and I can see all the different formatting that I made choices for. And of course, for the people that I worked with, when they made their choices of what session this was allocated to, whether it was Teams or Power Platform or OneDrive SharePoint, it would apply this color in the background. So if we go back to the list that of course is right now blank, and if I go in and add a new item, we'll just call this uh, first keynote. Maybe we're in the early phases. This is going to be Jeff Teeper's keynote, so we'll put in Jeff's name here. Session type is a keynote, and we don't know yet the room. We're working on this as an abstract. We'll get the code from the event team soon, and I will own this session and work with Jeff to make that a great keynote. This is into the future, so it's in September. Put it on September 14th, and this will probably be around 8 a.m. local time. And the allocation for this is going to be the OneDrive SharePoint keynote. Has it been submitted yet? No. So when I click Save, you'll see that that format isn't intact because this session, even though it's got a lot of placeholder information, has been deemed a keynote. So it's yellow. It overrides anything about the allocation, and it looks after the keynote. That's built in because we borrowed this from that previous use of the lists. And because I created a list from the list, all that carries forward in terms of formatting and choices of columns and all of that stuff. So let me add just 2 more items. We'll make this a team session, and we'll have this be my peer Caruana. And this one is going to be a workshop, and all this stuff will be TBD. We'll leave the owner. We don't know yet the time, but we know this is going to be a Teams workshop that's not yet been submitted. So when I click Save, you'll see, because it's been listed as a team session here in the allocation, that it's a purple. So we'll just add one more new item from the Power Platform. And we will give this to my peer Heather Newman. And we'll make this session type a breakout session. And we will make this the allocation from the Power Platform team. So again, I can now start to layer in. The Power Platform color comes through gray, Keynote yellow, a team session purple, and everything is intact with all of the choices. These are recurring for me. We always have different session types: workshops, breakout sessions, AMAs, keynotes, and we often work together with the Teams team, the Power Platform team, the OneDrive SharePoint team, and if I were to add in another item, you can see the allocations are already there for Viva and OneDrive. The different session types are already there for Keynote, AMA. And this is just now my work stream articulated in a template to save me a ton of time. And again, if I were to just go back in and show you that one example that we had from the Seattle show intact, as we start to work through all of the codes that get highlighted, all of the room information that's in there, this purple, if I step back, and I go into the Chicago show and I now start to get information about the room. Let's say we get the room number as 6A. Save that down and we get maybe a code of Keynote 100. Save that down. You'll see here the formatting comes through. So I go back to the list, it's all saved, and you can start to see even the format as we get the information later on. It's all intact, it's there, ready to be used. And it looks really nice. And of course, if I wanted to adjust this, create views, adjust the order of how things appear, I could do that, save this view, and now the next time that I use this, that common view that gets created, I often use all items and grouped by, those carry forward and are here as part of creating a list from a list. So let us now get into the world of custom templates. I'm going to hand it over to Chris Kent to walk us through creating and using custom templates in Microsoft Lists.
Thanks, Mark. Hey, everybody. My name is Chris Kent. I'm an Office Development MVP, and I'm a member of the Patterns and Practices core team. And I'm going to talk to you about the awesome feature of custom list templates and how they can make things so much better for you. Now, the first thing you'll need to know is that there are a couple of prerequisites. We're going to be doing some of this in the UI, but most of it we're going to use in the SharePoint Online PowerShell. So you'll need to get that installed. And because we are deploying these things at the tenant level, you'll need to be a global or SharePoint administrator. And then once we get going, it's really pretty straightforward. We're just going to create the list, we're going to extract it, we're going to register it, and we're going to upload it, and it'll be ready to go. So let's take a look. When you're on your SharePoint site, you go to create a new list, and you'll notice that you've got several templates here available for Microsoft. But when you go to form your organization, maybe you don't have anything here yet. Well, that's what we're going to do today. So if you've already got a list, that's great. You can skip ahead. But for me, I'm going to go ahead and create a list. And this one will just call questions. Sounds exciting. We'll create that list, and we're going to create a couple of columns here. Let's add a column here for the answer. This is going to be an FAQs list, which is something that comes up a lot across your organization. So for this, we're just going to make an answer column, and we're going to rename the title column to question. There we go. Now we have a question, and then we got an answer, and that's very exciting. And let's just drag that out so we can see it. And now, of course, let's add a little bit of content. The content we've just added is for display purposes only. It won't actually be included in our template. However, any views we create will be. So let's create a new view. We're going to call this view grouped. We'll hit create, and we're going to group by the question column. And then because that's now showing up in the group header, we can hide it. So column settings, show hide columns. We're going to uncheck question, hit apply. Then let's save our view to make sure all those changes are included. And let's make this the default view for our list. And then because these are all expanded by default, and we want them collapsed by default, if we hit edit current view, we're now in our classic view editor. If we scroll down to the group by section and expand that, you'll see here we could say by default show groupings collapse is what we want. And then we'll hit OK. That'll take us back to our view here. And things are looking pretty good. But we'd like to make it look even better, right? We'd like to remove some of this, clean this up just a little bit. Fortunately, there happens to be a view format that we can apply for that. And just like our views, all of our view formats, our column formats, and our form formats will come over. So if we head over to the P&P list formatting samples repo, where there's 250 plus samples for you, you can click on the view samples. We can scroll down to the FAQ grouped, hit on the JSON file, and hit the copy button over here. And if I just go back to my list and format the current view, hit advanced mode, I can remove what's here, Control A, and I'm going to Control V. I'm going to paste in what we just copied. I'm going to save that. And you notice when I do that, I lose the column headers and the selection, and I get a nice looking list here. All right, so let's make this something we can roll out across our entire organization. So we do that with PowerShell. First thing we need to do is need to connect to our tenant admin site. So I'm going to connect SPO service, and I'm just going to type in my site here, the Chris Kent -admin.sharepoint.com. That's going to prompt me to log in. Great, and now we need to extract the site script from the list. So we can set that to a variable. We're going to say extracted. And we're going to say equals get SPO site script from list. And we need the list URL. So I can copy that directly from my site here. So this list is called questions. I'll just copy that URL. And we'll head back here and I'm going to paste that in, hit enter. And now if we look at the extracted variables, it's not required, but it might be interesting to you. You can see that we have a site script that has all the details about our list, including the views, and even that format is in here. If we take a look here. For our purposes, we just need to put that into a site script. So we add SPO site script. I'm going to say the title is the FAQs list. I'm going to say description is adds an FAQs list. And we're going to say the content is that extracted variable we just got. Now we'll need the ID of that site script because that's what we're going to use for our list design. So we'll just copy that. And then we'll say add SPO list design. And we'll say our title for this one is FAQs. So our description will be frequently asked questions. Don't make this too long. It's not a lot of space there. And then our site scripts, that's where we're going to paste that ID we just copied. And then we need a list color. This is for the Microsoft list portion. So we'll say orange, and we'll need a list icon for the same reasons, and we'll say robot. And finally, we need a thumbnail, right? So the thumbnail URL, this is what's going to show as a little preview of what our list will look like. Now, you can take a screenshot, but I find it's usually a lot better just to get a nice image and use that. The size of those is about 200 pixels wide and about 100 and 120 pixels tall, so just about twice as wide as it is tall. And what you want to do is upload that to somewhere where everybody can get. So I recommend heading to your root site and go to your site contents and put it in your site assets library where everyone has access. And so I'm just going to drag an image that I've already prepared. We'll get that uploaded. Back to PowerShell. I can type in that exact address. All right, so https chriskent.sharepoint.com/site assets/list template FAQs.png. There we go. Now we've added our list design, and if we head back to our site, we can do this from any site in our template in our tenant now. We're going to hit new, we're going to hit list, and here in From Your Organization, hey, look at that! We've got an FAQs list, and if we click that, you'll see we've got that orange icon with the robot, just like we expected. Slate preview, we can hit use template, suggest the name as FAQs, we're going to hit create. And obviously there's no content in here just yet, but you'll notice that we're automatically in our grouped look. We don't have any column headers, which tells us that that format has been applied, and our all items view here exists, which makes it very easy to add a nice question. All right, and we'll exit that, and then we can see that both those columns came over and our view came over, and we're all good to go. And that is exactly how you get those organizational list templates out there. It's very easy. Create them in the UI first, copy them out with PowerShell, make them available for everybody. And that's all there is to it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Chris. It's always amazing to see you wield your magic, and very helpful, I hope, to everybody to have seen all of the ways that you can customize your templates, easily deploy them, and make them right there available alongside the ready-made templates. You have your custom templates right there inside of Microsoft 365 for you and your peers to leverage and benefit from. The next thing that I want to cover is what we call Microsoft 365 connected templates. And the reason I want to highlight this is it, of course, includes list templates, whether they are the simple, out-of-box, ready-to-go templates that Microsoft makes available to you. If it were to call up a custom template like you saw Chris create, whatever it is, the value here is that we're leveraging multiple templates across different applications and combining them in one create motion. So you can see in this screenshot, this is what we highlighted during a recent keynote that Jeff Teeper gave in the context of what we're doing with Microsoft Teams. This particular session was at the 365 EduCon in Seattle, the same one that I showed you that I leveraged List to help prepare for. And this was the actual presentation that we gave. Stephen Rose gave a great segment on Microsoft Teams that was inclusive of the value of SharePoint plus Teams. And within this section, this is where he highlighted some of the work that's to come, which is the Microsoft 365 connected templates. So what you see in this screenshot is when you go to create a new team in Microsoft Teams, if you choose the template of the Teams template called Manage a Project, it goes in and creates a number of things for you based on the Teams template. But with connected templates, you'll see that not only do we leverage the value of a Teams template, but it also pulls through and applies the project template onto the SharePoint site that is connected by default to it when you create a new team. And in addition to that, we bring in the list template. The one that's closest to managing projects is the one I showed you earlier called the Work Progress Tracker. So it's going to go and pre-configure all of this for you. It's going to create these 4 channels. It's going to go in and leverage these 6 applications and the various templates that are appropriate for managing a project. And it creates it all in one creation step. You give the team a name, you hit next and click through the wizard, and then it all gets created for you. The Teams template gets applied. There are multiple tabs that are already pre-configured for you, both with the Teams assets, some of the lists assets, and of course that home page for the SharePoint team site. And all this gets created for you and pre-configured to save you a bunch of time. And if you can see, it'll save you a lot of time bringing the boundaries of multiple templates together in that one creation flow, no matter where you start from. This happens to show you a picture of creating a new team that then automatically creates a connected team site, a list that's already predefined, applying the list template that's associated to it. This one in particular, like I mentioned, is that work progress tracker. But if I had went in to the SharePoint start page and created a new SharePoint site with the intention of building it out and leveraging it for a new project that I'm working on, and I wanted to have the service configure things for me, by going in there and choosing the SharePoint project template and applying that, all of the creation would happen in that same motion. It just happens to be that I started in SharePoint versus Teams. But they're connected templates, meaning that no matter where I create from, the end value is that it combines a lot of different apps, channels, and pre-configured subcomponents like lists, pages, document libraries. There's lots of things that you can configure into each of these templates, and it brings it together all in one motion. So next I want to jump over and show you some of those new templates that are now available within the lists.live .com space. And if you've not gone there, this is Microsoft Lists for consumers and very small business. And if you go to lists.live.com for the first time, you can go in and try the preview. You can sign in if you've already been using the preview. This is a great entry point. But just type in list.live.com. I'm going to sign in here to my account, and you'll see very similar look and feel in terms of the start page of creating from lists home. But this list you'll see is in uh, a Microsoft account space. So I'm signed in as Mark Cashman using my Microsoft account or MSA. And if I go in to create a new list, this should look really familiar. A little bit of difference in how these list templates look like because we're rolling out some different experiences, testing a little bit in preview. But you can go from blank, create from an existing list. You can import from an Excel file. There's a lot of ways to get started, leveraging the value of lists. From the list templates, the two or three that I wanted to highlight here are some of the new templates that we now have available in the list.live.com experience. We now have the expense tracker, so you can go in here and track expenses and attach if you're have an image of your receipt that already has an image column called receipt to attach that image file once you've taken the picture. But this is a pretty common experience that we see a lot of people building out. So the team has now solidified this in a new template called the expense tracker. There's also gift ideas. This one actually came from use internally where we had one of our leaders that was creating every time he wanted to give a gift for one of the people that reported under him, he was tracking a gift list. And so that was a pretty common thing that we saw in the early phases of rolling this out, where you might use this for wedding planning. You might do this for, if somebody is asking what type of gifts might be appropriate for their 10-year-old, and then they want to send this out as kind of a child gift registry, you could certainly do that. But if you notice here, same pattern of a list template. Get a title, a description of the scenario, and a glance ahead at what it looks like to use these. So similar in how you can leverage these, you'll see some of the ones that we've walked through also available in the list.live.com experience, but you also see the new ones like gift ideas, expense tracker, and a number of ones that are new and coming. But same as the value of leveraging lists, once you choose your template, you jump right in to tracking your information. So with that, I hope you've seen a really nice broad view of all the things that you can do with templates, whether you'll leverage them directly out of the service with ready-made templates, build your own with custom templates, start blank, which is my favorite template because you literally can do whatever you want and add as you go. And of course, the value of being able to build out custom templates and deploy them into your tenant for everybody to use at scale in the way that you want to manage information. We have a couple of resources that we want to highlight. We want to point you to where there is a lot of help content, so it goes into further in how to do more than what we showed you today, leveraging the different templates, building out your own custom template. Some of the guidance that Chris showed you is out there also to give you a sense of how to use PowerShell to leverage and deploy custom templates. There's also a lot of samples that we have with the PMP community. There's a great asset if you go to aka.ms/list-formatting. That will take you to all of the formatting samples across rows and columns and the lists themselves. And last, just to highlight that you can always see a lot of the great work that Chris does and he puts out there on Twitter, and some of the things that I highlight to make announcements and whatnot about the things that we're doing around Microsoft Lists. We're both pretty active on Twitter and certainly encourage you to follow Chris. He's got a lot of great examples. So thank you for your time today. Get using Microsoft Lists and save yourself a ton of time by using templates across the experiences of Microsoft Lists.